What's good, everyone? It's your girl Maxwell, the real hottie, coming with another fire episode of the special edition right here on Trusttheprocess. Today we are at the Shopper Soweto Stadium to interview another fresh person doing fresh things, Mr. SAEED MARINCE, who is the Imports and Customs Lead at Nike South Africa. Welcome.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, thanks.
So I really always start my interviews off with, how are you really? And I'm not talking about, I'm good, thank you. You know, how are you really doing? There's a lot going on in the world. And I feel after COVID, there was just so much darkness. So I always make my means to ask, how are you really doing?
Like your previous guest, because I watched all of your interviews, I tried to also practice or rehearse my answer. But I think for me, I'm blessed. I'm good, I'm blessed, I'm grateful. Grateful to be here. Thank you again for the opportunity. If you really can't be grateful for what you have, and then you're never gonna be ready for what you're about to get. So, yeah. Yeah,
that's a very wise answer. You're already coming in with the jabs, and we haven't even delved into the interview. I want to talk a little bit about your childhood. You raised by a single mother, which is a norm in society today.
Yeah.
Obviously not great circumstances. You moved from backyard to backyard growing up. How was that for you? Before we go into the deep stuff.
Yeah. For me, it was, in the beginning, very daunting. I dread, to this day, I dread moving.
Sure.
Right? When I moved into where I'm staying now, it's always like, geez, I have to pack again. But it's something I've done so many times in my life. You know, because it was a case of, if we stayed at a place for 6 months, that was like long. That's how many times we moved during my childhood, right? And I always like to say, I can go to any extension and people will know me. That's how many places we lived in and around ELDOS. Yeah.
And you grew up in ELDOS, yes?
Yes, grew up in ELDOS. Born in Westbury. My mom moved to ELDOS when I was, I think, about 5. And since then, I've always just been in ELDOS, yeah.
I love how what you've been through has molded you to be a better person. There's a lot of boys, I'm gonna say boys, and it's the norm for colored people to have men who make excuses for being useless, if I can put it in that term. Saying, my upbringing wasn't great, so now I have a reason to be who I am, I don't care. And the generation of uselessness continues, but you chose a different path. And I want to talk about that, because I feel like that's the most important thing that we need to get out to our listeners, that it doesn't matter where you are in life. The past is the past, but the future is the first thing you should always keep in mind. Can we talk about that a little bit?
I mean, yeah, for sure. For me, it wasn't, look, I don't think anyone ever has, with our circumstances, and I'll refer to the collective every single time, because I feel like it's not just me, and I don't want to just say, you know what, I am. So for us, it never got to a point where it's a case of, okay, today's the day, I'm choosing a different path. It was never like that. Like I said in the greeting, I'm blessed. I think for me, with my whole journey, my whole career, and every way I've shifted and moved, every time I've studied and whatever, there's always come a certain point when you can just say, yo, that's God. That's grace, because it's not me intentionally saying, okay, I'm gonna make this decision and do that, or move here and whatever. It's always just something that puts me in a situation or puts me in a circumstance that I have to up myself, up my level, work hard, and then on to the next one.
You see, but that's the thing. I feel like it is grace, but grace doesn't just allocate, it's not just allocated to people. No. You need to reach a certain standard.
Yeah. That's where the work ethic comes in, for me, personally, you know. Let me say I've never paid for any of my studies. my mother, when I matriculated, my mother told me, "Yeah, you need to find." Let me tell you the story actually, how I got into this apprenticeship that I had, right? So after matric, obviously, you're preparing for yourself to sit at home because that's the norm, like you said, right? And it's like, what am I going to do? So my mother reaches out to a friend of hers who works at ShopRite, right? In Extension 5. She's the backroom manager, packing manager, whatever. So she sets me up, my mother sets me up with a job at ShopRite, right? And I think 2 days before I was supposed to start at ShopRite, I had a friend, well, still my friend, but we're no longer in contact. His aunt worked at this big company, and they were looking for just matriculants who were just to start with this apprenticeship and stuff. And like everyone else, when you come out of school, your CV is but your name, address, date of birth, languages, and she puts something up very quickly at work and puts in my name. And again, Grace, I get called, some tests, aptitude tests and all of that, and I make it into we were 12 people selected nationally, right? So the apprenticeship starts. I don't know what I'm doing. Obviously, it's an industry I didn't even know existed. Because, coming up in school, all you hear about are the lawyers, the accountants, the doctors, those big careers, right? You don't know about the industry.
The broader,
and then the apprenticeship started. I started realizing that I'm actually good at this, The studying started, they paid for the studies. After 2 years, the apprenticeship ended. Wasn't offered the job, the permanent job, right? Obviously very gutting, heartbreaking. I spent 6 months at home again, going to the interviews. Like I went to a lot of interviews every week I had to go because of this apprenticeship, because of how widely recognized it was, this apprenticeship, and the company that it was with. So obviously I was getting a little traction there, right? And I was just putting my CV out everywhere. And this time around, my CV was 2 pages. No longer
Great.
1 page. Put the CV out, and again, no luck. 6 months down the line, no luck. I was just defeated and just done. You try to do the right thing and then nothing comes from it. And what's the use, no? And again, Grace, I get a call, right? Someone calls me from some agency, I forget the name now actually, and they're like, you know what, we're looking for some administrative people who are in the logistics and supply chain field. Matric is fine, but we saw that you did an apprenticeship with this big company, and you were a good candidate. It's a 6-month temp job, but and I'm like, I'm there. She gives me the call at about 9, she asks me, can you be there at 11? I'm like, okay, where is the place? Send me the address. It's in 4 Ways, right? Never been to 4 Ways, right? Sure. There's nobody I can ask to take me. I don't know how I'm gonna take the taxi. But anyway, get ready, make my way, get to town, ask for taxis to 4 Ways, get there. I got there, I was supposed to be there at 11. I got there 12:30 because I was lost. I was walking for an hour.
Sure.
Yeah. So the taxi took me to 4 Ways Mall, and the company, and I'll say who it was Samsung Electronics. The Samsung that we all know. They were all the way 2 kilometers up, so I passed them because I didn't know where I was going. I'm just looking, trying to find
And there was
anything,
no Google
just for any big
navigation at the time.
I didn't have a phone. I didn't have a phone at the time. And then finally, I just get off at 4 Ways Mall because it's central. It's and then I start asking for the street address, and people are like, oh no, Wedgwood Link, this is that way. How far that way? She's like, a white lady, she's like, probably I don't know, 3 kilometers, 2 kilometers. But you have to walk all the way back up into the main road on William Nicol. Anyway, I start walking. I see the time. At this time, I'm already like done with it. I'm like, I'm so late. Like, do I still have to go? Should I still go? Like, but anyway, I just go. Finally find the place. I walk into the front to the receptionist. And the moment I walk in, sweating, exhausted, just defeated, the lady, she looks at me, she says, SAEED, right? I said, yes. She says, they're waiting for you. I said, where are they? And as she points to the meeting room where the interviews are being held, here comes one of the guys who are actually conducting the interviews. He's the director for the logistics department. His name is Barry Donald, right? And he walks up to me and says, SAEED. I said, yes. You're late. I said, I'm so sorry. I'm trying to make excuses at this time. The taxis, he says. He asks me 2 questions. He's like, have you ever worked on Excel? I said, yes. I'm lying. Because at the Blue School, we never had laptops for computer. I said, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you know what a pivot table is? I said, yes, for sure. I'm lying. I don't know what he's talking about, anything, but yeah. So he says, okay, come. Those were the only 2 questions he asked me.
Wow.
He says, come. Takes me, we walk up to the 2nd floor, shows me a desk. I get there, there's 6 other people, and that's the temp staff that they hired for this export role.
And you ended up knowing how to do Excel.
I promise you, I put myself in it. Obviously, on the day, I was still a little shaken. I couldn't believe that I was actually just given the job and whatever, but yeah. Next day I came in, I knew exactly where I went, where to get off, you know. I got there, I think at about 4:30 in the morning because I was so afraid of being late again. I left here 3, in the taxi at 3.
Sure.
I waited from about 4:30 until 8 o'clock, just walking up and down the street. The private security that does the security around the business complex, they kept passing me and I just looked at them. It's dark, it's cold, I'm waiting.
To get to work on time.
I'm waiting to be there exactly 8 o'clock. So the moment the gates open, I'm in there.
What I'm hearing so far is how you started off out in matric with no experience into something new, the apprenticeship, right? And how you also, from that journey, went into something new. And I feel like that is a very daunting experience for a lot of people because the reality is a lot of us do lie for interviews when you have no clue.
Unfortunately.
But how did you catch up to where you want to be? Like, did you put in extra time on did you go home and you start Googling on Excel or, that type of thing? Can you run us through that process?
So, in the job, now I'm in the job, it's like a week in, settled, meeting people, finally meeting people, making myself familiar with the cafeteria people, I'd like to think I'm a very likable person. I always like to, get to know people, speak, what's your name? I like to be in a first name basis with anyone, from the cleaning lady to whoever, right? And then I met this lady who was working there. I'll say her name. She's from Lodium. Her name is Yusra. Right? She's a Muslim colored woman, similarly to me, but anyway.
Yeah.
And she speaks Afrikaans, but she's like Indian and more English and whatever, but she speaks Afrikaans, right? And so obviously with that we relate, and now because I'm colored and she finally hears I'm from ELDOS, she's so intrigued by me, ELDOS people, and I think you know how the story goes, right? And she tells me the story about the husband liking kusheshes and liking dressing this way, and she's just waiting for me to come with my kavelas and my gold earrings and gold chains, right? So this is how we start communicating and relating. And she says to me, you know what, why don't you sit next to me and I'll actually show you how to do the documents, right? And that's how I got to learning. I became a shadow, literally became a shadow, right? So every day she'll be like, okay, I'm gonna do this and then I want you to do this. And then finally I get my laptop and now I have to literally mimic what she's doing on the system, on Excel and everything. This is where I learned how to do a pivot table, right? So I'm like, it's just that simple. It's like just a few clicks and that's it, right? So obviously now I'm starting to get good, like at just working on a laptop, right? Something I've never ever worked on in my whole life, right?
If I may ask, how old were you at this point?
Fresh out of school this time, so it was, I matriculated when I was 17 because I was born earlier in the year. A lot of people think, woo, so smart. No. I was just born early in the year, you know, like. And then the apprenticeship ran for 2 years, so it was 18, 19 going on 20.
So you only managed to use a laptop at 20?
Properly, yes. I had my own allocated one when I was 20 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, when I actually had my own Samsung laptop, Samsung bag. Yeah, I was that guy. I walked, took my 2 taxis every day with my bag and with my shoes. I'll never forget the shoes I wore. It's the same shoes I wore for my matric farewell. I wore it throughout the apprenticeship and into my first job as well. The same shoes, yeah. I'm sure a lot of people will know it. It was called the Cantarelli at the time. You don't know it? the slightly older guys will know what it was. I loved that shoe so much, you know. Yeah, so I wore the same shoes throughout the 2 years in my apprenticeship and the first year and a half of my new job.
And it never bothered you that I will be bothered that I'm wearing the same shoes, like.
That's the thing. So my wardrobe, literally, because I mean, yeah, the apprenticeship, if I can go back, didn't really pay much. Over the 2 year span, we earned, it was a stipend, obviously. I think we earned like 2,500. So one of the departments we had to go to was the air freight department, imports and exports air freight. So it's 2 separate departments, right? And this department was not at the company's head office, it was at the airport. You had to take 3 taxis. So one to town to Kempton Park to Pomona. It's called Pomona Road, right? The taxi fare alone per month came out to 1,600. I earned 2,500.
Sure.
Right. So obviously already there was no money for, shwepa, nothing. That's how the
But that didn't deter you?
No. Yeah, a lot of my friends were like, you paid on 2,500 and taxi fares and you get paid every month, you come home, she keeps my taxi fare for the month so that we don't have to borrow. And the rest obviously goes into
the household.
Yeah. So what was I working for? That's the question. I always ask her, but yeah.
You were literally just working to gain experience.
It was just taxi fare.
But looking back, do you regret it?
I don't.
Not for a bit?
I don't, and this is why I always get very, I don't want to say agitated, I'll say annoyed, a lighter version, at people who will complain about their first job and how much they're earning. I had the same discussion with my sister not so long ago. She started her first job and what she's getting, she told me she's only getting this and she wants to buy a new phone and she wants clothes and she's a grammer, she's always on Instagram. She wants to go out in the pictures and she just wants to leave the job because according to her the job's not paying enough. And it's her first job. I said, you're spoiled. First job, no experience, no proper education. You only have a matric and you can complain about earning 4,000 Rand a month or 4,500 a month.
Sure.
So I get so annoyed at those kinds of conversations. I'm like, but really? Where's the want to, want to have more or do more? And you can only get more, do more if you really put work in it.
So SAEED, you were saying how you earned 2,500 Rand and you were literally working for taxi fare. What kept you going in that time? Because in my mind, I would want to quit after that eerste paid and low sick because it's not worth it. But what kept you going?
Well, it was just knowing that every time I got when I came home, got off the taxi at the shopping center, on Extension 8. But here's the thing, when people come from work, especially in that street, I don't know if you've been there at the shopping center, right? Everyone who gets off the taxi there, they pass that entire street. Yeah. And everyone who doesn't work, it's like everyone who doesn't work sits there and they watch everyone coming from work, right? So when I started being one of the people coming from work now, you know, passing everyone, passing my friends and all of that, the only thing that separated me from the guys greeting us coming from work and me greeting them back was my laptop bag. Because there was no difference between us, monetary wise. It's not like I had money now because I'm working. I had no money in my pocket. He didn't have money in his pocket. I didn't have money in my pocket. I just have my taxi fare every single day, 65 rand. That's what my taxi fare was every day. You know, and if you lose a 1 rand somewhere in your pocket, you're like, it was that kind of anxiety. Right? So that was the only thing that separated us or differentiated us, myself and my friend or my peer or whoever was greeting me while I was walking home. It was my laptop bag and the laptop inside it. That's all it was.
So literally, the laptop is what kept you going.
Yeah, I felt it brought a sense of dignity, if I can say, for lack of a better term. Sense of purpose, definitely. Definitely a sense of purpose, because I knew that if not for holding that bag in my hand, I'd be sitting on the corner smoking a pipe or a pipe. It was either one of the two. I still smoke a pipe, by the way, but you know, I would have been doing that the entire day and not have done anything constructive, not have been anyway constructive, you know? So it was that bag was literally like a symbol for me to say, you know what, you don't have money, yeah, that's fine. You're working, yes, you don't know what you're working for, of course, but you have something that's going for you. Yeah.
I get that. And then you were at Samsung Electronics for 7 years.
Yeah.
What was the best part about working for Samsung?
The multiple promotions in a short period of time.
But obviously that's not just.
The best part, one of the best parts was obviously always having like one of the latest phones, right? Because at the time it was S2, and then when the S3 came out, I think I was like one of the first people in ELDOS to have an S3. It was a white one. Like, I'll never forget, it was like a big S3 like this. It was like, yeah. S3. Samsung S3 phone.
So so you moved away from the 2005, so you got a better salary so you could buy data with the S3, or was it an S3 with sonar data?
No, it was sonar data, but I could buy. At this time I could afford to buy my own data and, you know, look after myself a bit better.
I'm hearing you say that the multiple promotions, that didn't just happen by luck.
Yeah, so like I initially said, it was a temp role, the administrative role. It was supposed to be for 6 months. Within 3 months, the same guy, Barry Donald, the director, he came to me just one morning. Again, I was there every single morning before everyone, I think. And he too, we always used to get each other at the office, right? And he just walked to me, before everyone came in, before my colleagues came in, he just walked to me and he asked me, how would you like to work here permanently? It's like, you know, Barry, like, but you know what? Not knowing that he's actually intending to offer me a role, I'm saying, you know what, I'll speak to the agency, because I was there under an agency. I said, I'll really speak to the agency and see if there's an opportunity for me, because I didn't know how it works. I didn't know that if they want you permanently, they cut out the agency, they just come to you direct and say, we want you permanently. I was operating under the agency's rule, because I had to fill in my hours in, hours out, and that determined my salary every month. And he had to sign it off, right? So he's like, no. Aside from the agency, just how would you like to work here? I said, obviously I'd like that, you know, that'll be nice. He said, okay, he walked away. 2 weeks later, he and my manager, her name was Adele, so the lady below him, and the HR director, his name was Sonwabo, Son. They call me, they just come after lunch, they just call me into a room. I'm thinking, what did I do? Did I like cheat my times in? Because that's what a lot of people did at the time. They cheated how early they come and how late they work to get a bigger payout, right? And then walk in, just gives me a contract. It says, I want you to be the export administrator for West Africa, right? Like, wow, that's big. Not knowing that I was actually doing that job for the past 3 months, what the actual permanent person would do, and this was a role that's been empty for always. So I was actually doing the job that someone permanently would do. I didn't know I was doing it.
Sure.
Yeah. So he gave me the contract. He's like, read it over, come back tomorrow and then sign it. I'm like, I'll sign it now. He says, no. Check everything and then, yeah. So I bring it home. My mother, obviously, I just told her the news. I'm still on my way home. I'm still trying to figure out how I'm going to tell her. From the taxi, the second taxi, from town home. I'm sitting in the taxi, listening to my earphones and everything. And I just start like I want to cry, but I don't know how to cry.
Yeah.
Because in the taxi and the mensen gaan say, "Kijk, no, die move." But anyway, and I'm just thinking, I'm like, is this? I take it out of my bag again. I'm reading it. I'm just saying, we Samsung Electronics South Africa would like to offer you. I see my name there. I go through it. I flip a few pages. I see the number. It's like, I can't believe it. I come home. I tell my mother. Obviously, she's happy. She starts crying. It's a big thing again, and my sisters as well. They are happy. They don't really know what it means, but they're happy as well. Yeah. Go in the next day. Signed it. Everything. I'm happy. I give it to him. It's like, yeah. I was in that role for a year and a few months, export administrator role. Then by this time he was out. So another director came in, a Korean lady, and I'm gonna name drop a lot of people because, I mean, you can't not mention people in your story, right?
Yeah.
Her name was Sang Mi Song, so she was now taking over from him, Korean lady, right? I don't know if you've heard the story about Korean people and their work ethic. Never?
I've never been exposed to Korean people.
These people work. They work. Like the South African group that are working for Samsung will attest to this. These people work. They believe that you're not allowed to leave before your boss does. So if your CFO is in his office at 7 o'clock at night, why do you feel like you have the right to go home 5 o'clock? Even though your contract stipulates you work from 8 to 5. That's the kind of work ethic they have. So all the Korean people who are expats who are based in South Africa, they will not leave their desk or their workstation unless that guy up top has left for the day, Mr. Yoon. So I used to come home very late every night just because of Mr. Yoon, because I wanted to replicate what they were doing. Everyone else was leaving at the time, my entire team. I was working with, I think, another colored guy is from Rego Park. His name is Henry, Henry Norton. And he used to, because I have very small eyes, he used to say, I'm becoming a Korean guy now because I was just like them.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I come in early, I won't leave if Sengmi didn't leave. Even though I have nothing to do, I'd sit and wait. Taxis are leaving. I know for sure the taxis at town at the time finished at about 8. And the last taxi from Bryanston to town is about 7, 7:30. But I'll wait, not knowing how I'm going to get home, which is something I'll cover later on as well. Not knowing how I'm going to get home. And then when she finally leaves, and then I also, I'm done for the day. I've been done 4 o'clock already. I'm just waiting because she didn't leave. That's the kind of work ethic that they have. And I wanted to replicate that and show that, Yeah, so again, working in that role for like a year and 8 months, and then she comes to me, she says, again, just during lunch, or the office was empty as well, she says, I don't want you doing this anymore. I want you to do this. So now from export administrator, someone who just works with files and paperwork and stuff like that, I want you to be the supply chain analyst. Right? So obviously it sounds fancier, so it must be better. And I'm like, okay, no, that's fine. So now I'm not going to be working with files and documents and stuff. I'm just going to be working on the system. So I start doing that, and then within 2 weeks she comes to me, she says, here's a contract. I want you to do this permanently.
Sure.
Yeah. So now I'm the supply chain analyst for West Africa for Samsung Electronics. And this is, if I can briefly say what this person does, is literally plan every single, well, all the products, Samsung products, washing machines, fridges, anything that's going to West Africa. So I'm planning it on the system, and once I've planned it, I have to make sure it's right, it's according to what the customer wants. Like I'm talking about a lot of, not just like 10 fridges, like containers, that kind of volume. Once I do that, it goes into the system, and then the factories in China, Vietnam, they'll produce it, and then they'll ship it to the customer. So this was now my job, is to make sure that the demand forecasting was accurate. Everything that I put into the system was as per what the customer wants and what the salespeople bring and whatever. So I was working with invoices that were worth a lot of money at the time, right? Yeah. So that's, yeah, then I got that role, and again, I did well in that role, and then I became the team leader for the entire group. So the same people who I came, Yusra was gone at the time, but there were still some people who were still there.
Yeah.
And then I became the team leader. I've always been the youngest person in all of my teams. Till now, I'm also the youngest person where I am now. Third youngest in the company even. Yeah, and I became their team leader, and obviously that didn't sit well with a few people, obviously. But yeah, that didn't really stop me. I didn't really.
But I think the only reason why it worked out that way was because of the ethic you wanted to replicate from the Koreans. I mean, obviously it would give an impression to her that this man is here to go all out.
I mean, in any corporate environment, well, in most corporate environments, there's always, there's a culture. It depends on the culture, right? So in me trying to just replicate what they were doing and trying to adopt that level of work ethic, it had nothing to do with my teammates or my peers or my colleagues. It was just me trying to take that from them, right? And trying to like instill it in myself to say, don't come to work with the expectation of leaving at 5 every single day. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like then how do you even say that you've achieved something for the day? You get there at 8 exactly. You take your lunch at 1 exactly. You leave at 5 exactly. It's to me, I'll say this. It's probably a little contentious, but it's something that our society or our culture needs to try to move away from a little bit. It doesn't mean that your contract stipulates these times and I don't care, work can stand still, it's my lunchtime, I'm going to take a break. I mean, you've been to like a public service department, home affairs, the license department. You can stand there how long? And it'll get to your turn or whatever, and the moment it's just 12 or whatever, these people go on lunch and they have no... To me, that just shows, it just shows that you don't have no purpose, you have no pride or sense of anything for what you are doing now. And I wanted to get that out of myself.
A lot of people look at it as if you're investing time into the company. But now, here you are bringing a fresh perspective where it's more investing time into yourself. And I really like that. I like how you just made looking stay over from work so cool, and you just brought a positive perspective on it.
With the late stay, right? And this is something I realized only later on. Those 3 or 4 hours that I was staying, not doing anything constructive, by the way, but just being there because I saw that she won't leave because of him and the other one won't leave because of him as well. So I was also staying. In that time, I got to actually speak to these people and actually really relate to them and like talk to them. And then I found that, you know what, it's not a big thing. It's really not a big thing because yes, you're going to leave now at 5 and what are you going to do when you get home? Okay, yes, you have family and everything, and yes, all of those things granted, good and well. But the time that you would have spent coming, and by the way, you're spending 2 hours in traffic anyway, right? So by just staying the extra 2 hours at your desk in the comfort of the office, you're skipping traffic also. But that gave me an opportunity to connect to them on a personal level, connect to her even on a personal level, and the other Korean colleagues of mine as well.
So from being at Samsung for 7 years, you are now the import and customs lead at Nike. Looking good, by the way. Tell us a little bit about that journey. How did you get here?
I hear this question a lot. And whenever I tell it, people don't really believe me. Some even say that I'm stingy. I don't want to share how I got to Nike or to working for Nike. But for the record, I'll tell the story, right? I'm at Samsung, happy, doing well, not even applying for a job or even looking for a job because, in my opinion, I'm doing very well. I had created a LinkedIn profile like a year before, right? And so this day I come, go into my LinkedIn profile, just see how it looks, just see what people from the outside in and okay. And then I see a notification, a message, and it's from a guy, his name is Alex Ongoke. To this day I can't properly say his surname. Yeah. And he's like, hi SAEED, we've been watching your profile. We've spoken to a few of your colleagues that worked for Samsung but have left, and we have a role that we think you'll do well in, right? By the way, this is my first time someone offering me something that I didn't apply for or work for or look for, right? Someone external, by the way. So I'm thinking it's a joke and I don't respond to it, right? And then the next day again, because on LinkedIn you can see like the DMs, you can see when someone's read it, right? And then he responds to me again, it's like, please can you give me your cell phone number? I'd just like to give you a call for 5 minutes. So anyway, I give my cell phone number, this guy calls me. The moment I press send, boom. Well, not that instant, but within 2 minutes, he gives me a call. So we speak over the phone. He's like, hi, my name is Alex. I'm from Ghana. I'm a recruiter in the logistics and supply chain field. I specialize in placement and whatever the case. And I have a role that I think you will be suited for perfectly. You will perfectly suited for. And I'm like, okay, who's the company? Because at the time, to me, there's nothing bigger than Samsung. Yeah. In my mind, like Samsung is one of the biggest at that time, right? He's like, I can't really say who the company is, but what I will say is it's the #1 sports brand in the world. Again, because I don't know who the #1 sports brand in the world is, I'm like, okay. So tell me about it. What is it? It's like, no. I'm going to send you a job spec. And based on what I saw on your LinkedIn profile, everything that you're doing at Samsung now, I promise you it is literally mirror of what you're doing now. So he sends me the job spec. I'm like, yeah, this is so cool. Like, yeah. So, but now when he says #1 sports brand in the world, Google, I see Nike. I say, can't be. Never. No. So I'm looking further down below, like, in Google, you get a lot of suggestions and stuff. And those questions that come up, who is, I'm looking and every single one of them says Nike. Again, I'm just, no, it can't be, not Nike, never. A couple of days later, I think two or 3 days later, it's like, have you read over the job spec? What do you think? I'm like, yeah, no, everything sounds very familiar. I know a lot of what's happening here. I specialize in West Africa exports. I deal with Nigeria, Ghana, Senegal, Mali, Ivory Coast a lot. I know those countries, I know their processes, all of their imports, processes, the documents required, and what. And again, I'm like, so who's this company? He's like, now I'm allowed to tell you. It's Nike South Africa. For real? I'm like, yeah. So again, like everyone else, because if you ask anyone, if I tell them I work for Nike South Africa, they think like, then the next question will be like, what store? Like, no, I don't work for a store. I'm not at the store. So me, myself, I'm also like, what store? He's like, no, sir. The head office of Nike South Africa. I'm like, okay, where are they based? They're like, no. At the time we were at our old office in Midrand, next to Boulders Mall. So he gives me the address. He's like, would you be available for an introductory interview, right? I said, yeah, for sure. He's like, you know what? We'll just do this one by cell conference. So it will be myself in Ghana and the director there and the manager and you on a call. Can we make it for like 8 p.m. at night? Is that fine? So I'm thinking, yeah, that's fine. Yeah, it's fine. I should be at home that time. So I get home. I'm literally checking myself and like just waiting for the call now, right? 5 to 8, he gives me a call. He's like, are you ready? I'm like, yeah, I'm ready. He's like, yo, I'm so excited. These people have read your thing. I've told them about you and I've given them feedback of other people about you and everything. Cool. 8 o'clock, the conference starts, the introductory. So now we're talking. There was no Zoom at the time.
Yeah.
It was just a call, right? And there was no WhatsApp video also at the time. So we're just talking over the phone and I hear these two people talking and I hear him speaking and whatever. And they're like, obviously the question, tell me about yourself, you know, and I'm so nervous, like I think I am now. But I'm just talking, right? And like, okay, no, cool. And this guy, like 5 minutes into it, he's like, you know what, let's stop it there. I actually want to meet you in person. Right? Can you come for an interview tomorrow? I'm like, what time? He's like, no, around 11. I said, yeah, sure, I can. I don't know how I'm going to get like time off or whatever. I said, no, sure, I'll be there at 11 or whatever. Fine. I go to work the next morning. I'm a strong believer in training. Like I like to train. I'm always training, right? So I go to gym in the morning. And then after gym, I go to work because it was like our offices were just like opposite the gym, right? And when I get into the office, I have breakfast and whatever, and I'm thinking of an excuse to leave at about 10 so I can be there at 11 and come back again. Right? Sitting at my desk, and I just walk up to my boss, I just tell her, you know what, I actually got a call yesterday for an interview and I actually just want to go and see what it's about and because it's with Nike. She says, Nike, really? I said, yeah, Nike, really. She says, go. I'm not going to stop you. Like, go, just hear what it's about. And then when you get back, I want to hear all about it, right? And then she's like, and think, when you're done with that, take the day off. Don't even come back.
Sure.
Yeah? I'm like, yo, thank you so much. So I go. So now when I get there, I am like a schabat tie, white shirt, crisp white shirt, black tie, black pants, and jersey. That's like the standard. Like
and new shoes.
Better shoes this time around. Better shoes this time around, right? I'm sitting in the front in the reception area, and I thought I was lost at a point because I'm so like buttoned up in everything and whatever the case, and everyone here is like walking past me with tights and crop tops, but these people are working here, right? So they come, they get me, and we go into the room and we have a discussion. The interview goes and whatever. That's interview number 1. It goes well. And I leave. I come home. It was a Thursday. I come home. I'm so happy. Like I knew it went well because of how I felt when I walked out of it, right? So I knew and that was just the introduction interview. It wasn't like the technical one. I get home, and then Alex calls me. He's like, yo. Like they really liked you. Can you come on Monday for another interview, the second interview? I'm like, yeah, sure. Monday I go, feeling very well because I think it's going to be the same audience, the same panel. And when I get there, I promise you, it's literally like 7 people. So it's the director, logistics director, HR director, CFO, the GM, like just all of these people. I'm like, yo, you know that thing that you get here? Anyway, like, yeah, the interview starts. Again, the nervousness kicks in. I take my time, and they did their best to really settle me and whatever. And then they're like, you know what, just talk us through a normal working day of yours. And so I explained to them. And by me just telling them what I do every single day, my job and whatever, I didn't know that I was literally ticking all of their boxes of the kind of person that they're looking for, work-wise and technically wise and skill-wise, you know? And so after that, the HR person is like, how do you work in like the culture there? We know because everybody knew what the culture was like there. Like how do you function like under that pressure and whatever? And then she looks at it. She's like, you've been there for 7 years. I'm like, yeah. She says, yo, a lot of people don't even last 2 years. I'm like, yeah, I know. Like the staff turnover rate is like very quick and whatever. But for me, it was good and whatever. And she said that because she was the HR director for Samsung a few years before I was there.
Sure.
Her name is Portia Sitole. Portia. So she's now the HR director for Nike at the time. And she asked me, how did you manage 7 years at Samsung? I'm like, I found it okay. I honestly found it okay. Like, I'm happy, to be honest. Just like, yo, and whatever. And then I leave. On my way into the parking, Alex calls me. He's like, do you know there were supposed to be 2 more interviews after this one? I said, yeah, okay. But first I need to figure out where I'm going to get time off. And he's like, no. I'm telling you, there was supposed to be. But let me tell you now, like, you got the job. They want you to start as soon as possible.
Sure.
Yeah. As soon as possible, they want you to start. Then so obviously now the whole process goes like the notice period and all of that, right? Fast forward, I come my first day, again, suit and shirt and tie, because that's how I've been dressing all the time.
Yeah.
I get me take somewhere to anti-track. I've invested a lot of time in actual shoes because of the yeah. And then I started working at Nike. I couldn't believe it. Like every single day, I just couldn't believe it. And the one thing that stood out for me every single time I got to work was, I need new clothes. I need new clothes.
Of course.
Because now, like everyone is passing. It's like, okay, I take it. Okay, I take it. Like everyone is like, you know, because I mean, you're at the HQ of Nike, like for the country. Yeah.
Wow, what an inspiring story. But I believe that you putting in all that work at Samsung and learning that ethic to come into a different, easy, relaxed culture, but you're still grounded in like a strong ethic. That's one of the reasons why you're at Nike today.
I think I would be very remiss if I didn't mention my earlier struggles at Nike. So because of the kind of micromanaging environment that Samsung was, and the pressure and someone almost sitting on your back every single day. From that type of environment or culture to a Nike environment, I suffered culture shock for like a year. In fact, I went into like a performance improvement plan. 6 months into it, I almost lost. I was like 1 foot out the door because I suffered culture shock. Because at Nike, you are literally there for a reason, and we want you to be there, and you need to show us why you are there. Nobody's going to sit behind you. Nobody's going to manage your time. Nobody's watching what time you get in, what time you're leaving, when you're having lunch, how long you're having lunch. You can't really show that you're working by the normal corporate level. Okay, he's early, he's at his desk the whole day, every day, he leaves after. Those things are non-factors in the Nike environment. At Nike, it's results, it's showing up, it's performance, it's results. We don't care, I can say we now, how you manage your time. You can sit at home every single day, sleep until 10 o'clock if you want. Well, not really, but that is the kind of environment it is. And because they allow you, or they give you the platform for the perfect work-life balance, there's almost no excuse for you to not do what you're supposed to do and above and beyond.
Wow. So what do you actually do at Nike?
Yeah, what a question. I do a lot. No, I'm just joking. Not a lot. Not that much anyway. So like you alluded to earlier, I'm the import lead, customs lead for South Africa, for Nike South Africa. And that basically means that I am the person who facilitates all the product into the country. So when product is every single piece of product, from a shoe to a bag to a sock, underwear, anything, right? So when product is produced at our factories, origin regions, it gets shipped. So my colleague and I will do the planning. Well, she does most of the planning anyway. Thank you, Tools. She does most of the planning, gets planned and packed into containers, those big containers and whatever. Puts on a big ship sails across the waters, gets to Durban or Cape Town. I facilitate the customs, so ensure that all the documents are okay. Well, we have a company that does that, but obviously with my approval. Documents are correct, gets customs cleared, container gets taken off the ship, placed on a truck. From the truck, from Durban, it comes up to Joburg into our warehouse. That is fundamentally and in a nutshell and in the broad spectrum what's my core function. Obviously, there's a lot of intricacies that goes with it, a lot of communication, obviously, a lot of technical detail that goes into it as well. But yeah, that is basically what I do. So every single piece of product that comes into South Africa, I know about.
So what about the shoes that you don't know about?
Hey, yeah, what can I say, man? Nothing actually. It's just sad, because from a brand point of view, or from a brand person point of view, it's like, from a business perspective, it's like, these people are killing us, eh? Like, they're really just killing us.
But in the same breath, they're also like, we're trying to eat too.
Yeah, and exactly that. And then on the other hand, it's just like, I mean, not everybody can afford to buy a Nike pair of shoes, and who are you to say, don't wait because it's fake and whatever, I guess, So there's always that. I always have to be very emotionally intelligent when it comes to those things, right? There's one thing I won't be apologetic about. So the start of COVID, right? And when COVID, and it was the mask era, right? There were so many Nike masks everywhere going around before Nike made masks.
Oh, my soul.
Right? So when the first ones arrived, I made a post, and I actually took a video and some pictures, and I said, my caption was, the first authentic Nike masks arrived. And for those that have seen the last year or two, let's just leave it there. And I ended the post, because it's like, I mean, why would you, I always have this question, why would you want to wear something that you know is not like authentic, when you have the option of getting something that is authentic? Do you understand what I'm saying? So you'll actually buy something that's not real when you actually have the option of buying something that is real with the same money. Do you understand what I'm saying? I think about your last guest, Tsibi.
Yeah.
His brand, doing very well, Why not just support him and be happy with an authentic indie brand? as opposed to
A knockoff.
Do you understand what I'm saying? You are doing an injustice to yourself, in my opinion, to us as a brand. Like, definitely to us as a brand. Believe it or not, we feel it, but yeah. And I mean, just in general, like, you know, like, why do that? And then obviously we have this, it's a work thing. Well, it's people at work, we have this thing. So we call it counting shoes, right? So whenever we come into a private space like a lift or in a room or whatever, the first thing, I don't know if it's just something they put in the water at work or whatever, but the first thing always is your head drops down and you start looking at people's shoes. And you start to actually, we've become so good at it, you'll be like, that's nice. But we haven't made that color yet, so I don't know. But anyway, it's like, that's nice. Like, but that stitch is a little. Yeah, but anyway,
sure.
Yeah, that's how good we've become at just spotting, and that's another aspect of my job as well, is to, like, the brand protection side. You know, I think it was 2 years ago, no, more than 2 years ago, I was doing a bit on the brand protection side. And so brand protection is literally, we have some attorneys that we hire, and they do all of the field work for us. They do the raids and the intelligence and all of that for any incoming shipments that's not authentic. And so if they find those shipments, they'll call me and they say, hey, we seized the container. Is it one of your Nike containers, original Nike containers or not? And then I'll check, I'll say, oh no, I don't know those container numbers, so definitely not. Seize it, impound it, destroy it. Right? So that is how we try to tackle the fake product in the country, on that level, on the top level. And a lot of people ask me, so why not just, like I was speaking about someone else locally, why not just go to them and take their stuff at Eastgate Mall or in small streets or in town or whatever? It's because we can't. It's not that we can't, but what's the use?
Yeah.
The idea is for us to cut it. The previous guy, I hope he's resting well, shame he passed on, but he always said that we have to cut the snake by its head. Yes. Right? So we try to go after the actual supplier, the actual producer, not the guy at the bottom who's just trying to sell a pair of fake Air Force Ones. That guy has nothing to do with us. I mean, we can't compete with that guy. We're trying to compete with that guy and make sure that he doesn't. Do you understand? And yes, obviously, the downstream effect will be him not being able to, but hopefully it'll motivate him to do something else. Yes. But the idea is for us to cut it there, because they are the guys that are hurting us and hurting the brand in terms of the counterfeit space and the brand protection space.
Great stuff. SAEED, we like to end off our interviews with asking our guests, what does trust the process mean to you?
Exactly that. I think it's in the wording itself, you know? You'll hear me mention a lot when you go back into the interview. You'll hear me mention a lot. It's a lot of words like grace, patience, and work ethic. It's hard to work towards something that you don't know you're working towards, right? But then trusting that something better is going to come from that work ethic or whatever it is. That's exactly what it is to me. So just knowing that, yes, I might not know where I'm going to end up with this. I don't know where I'm going to end up with this laptop bag, but I'm trusting that it's better than the alternative, and I'm trusting that it's going to get me somewhere. And grateful enough to say, sitting here now and doing an interview because of that laptop bag. Yeah.
Wow, that was so beautiful. It was so nice being in your presence. Thank you so much for having us here at the Shapa Soweto Stadium. We really appreciate. This is your girl Maxwell, the real hottie. Another fire episode in the bag. From ELDOS to the world, baby. Stay tuned. Bye.
I just finished my interview with Trusttheprocess. Again, shout out to them. Very honored to have been here. Maxine, very good host. Very good presenter. I'd encourage anyone to do this. For me, it was very liberating. Felt good reflecting on my story. actually gave me a really good feeling. So let's do this, let's support it. You don't know, your story might just mean something to another person. Let's share it, and yeah, let's see where it takes us. Cheers.